Hello everyone, my name's Ben Richards. I am a Qandor member, have been for the last 2 years, and today we're going to talk about this project, which we have finished over the last year during COVID and lockdown. We are in the process of selling the 2 basement flats that we've created. So I'll start with an overview about the deal. It's a block of 6 flats with a disused car park underneath, and you can see that in the images on the right hand side. Big fire hazard, used as a drug den, not a very nice space, and we achieved planning permission to convert that space into 2-bedroom flats, and I'll talk you through the planning process in a short second. So we raised £350,000 via a crowdfunding platform called Crowd With Us. And I can talk through some of the intricacies of that as well. It's got a car park to the rear, which was overgrown and not a very nice car park space for people to use. The original use of the Undercroft was as a basement car park, but there's literally no way of getting a car in through that opening. It's only about 2 meters wide, so it became that fire hazard and drug den. It's in a great location just outside Reading city centre, less than 500 meters away, and it's a short walk to the overground and the Reading West station as well, sort of equidistant between the two. So you're only sort of 20-25 minutes away from London on any given day. A little bit background about myself. As I said, my name is Ben Richards. I've got experience working for architects, for structural engineers, for property developers, namely the Berkeley Group, where I spent 3 years as a technical manager with them, working in Nine Elms and Battersea, working on some really lovely projects. Left the Berkeley Group in 2017, set up Aura Architecture, an architectural practice based in London. We're an award-winning design-led architecture studio, small but growing. We've been going for 3.5 years, but we're starting to get a lot of traction now, and also becoming very well known for architecture for developers by developers. Basically, we're very good at squeezing value out of assets and doing the best we can to sort of get a great return on investment for our developer clients. The main reason for that is because of my background and the fact that I also co-own an investment and development company called EXP Property Investments with my business partner Jack Jiggins, who I'm sure some of you will also know. If 2 property businesses wasn't enough, we are soon to launch EXP Surveys, which is a measurement survey and topographical survey company, which we're going to be rolling out in the southeast over the next couple of months. Look out for the launch in April time. So that's a little bit background about where I've worked. So in this case study, we're going to look at a few things. We're going to talk a little bit about the crowdfunding. Essentially, we didn't really put much money down on that project, a few soft costs, but predominantly most of the funds were crowdfunded. We're going to look at the importance of challenging consultants. So I've been on both sides of the coin. Spotting opportunity is key for any development or any developer. We're going to be discussing a couple of significant interior design tips that I think every developer should be using, looking at the sales and market analysis of this project and things to look out for during that process, and of course some pretty pictures of the finished product. So how did we acquire this? I cheated, really, is the best way of describing this. I own one of the 6 flats already, so it was a good opportunity to discuss this development with the other 5 leaseholders. Took a long time, to be honest, to get everyone in alignment. We had a mix of owner occupiers. We had some landlords, but predominantly most of them aren't really, I guess, in the property game or sort of fully understand the process. So it did take a while. We talked about grouping together and actually developing it ourselves by clubbing some funds together and building it out. But ultimately, it got to the point where we were going to put it to auction, and I said, look, I'd like to put my hat in the ring. This is my offer. And we managed to come to an agreement basically at the end of 2019, so November time. So the process from sort of initial discussions to actually buying this with the freeholder or the other directors of the freehold management company, probably 2.5 years, really, from that initial kind of, I think this is a goer, let's get planning permission, let's discuss how we can, potentially build it out together. As part of the negotiation, we had to resurface the car park, and that's what you can see in these images. So the left-hand side being people just grew to parking to what's on the right, which is hard landscaped and allocated parking bays for each of the flats. Now, we negotiated a really good price for this. We actually bought the space for £90,000. We had it Red Book RICS valued at £160,000. So almost 40% below what the market or what the surveyor suggested it was. And this, the interesting thing with this is that we didn't tell the RICS surveyor what we were buying it for. And every time we've done that, we've got a much higher valuation than what we've bought projects for. Now, a lot of surveyors won't do that, or if it's a mortgage valuation or a bank valuation, then they basically will normally only ever value it up to the level of what you're buying it for. So if you can not tell them what you're buying it for, I pretty much guarantee that they'll come in with a higher valuation. So that's the acquisition process. The planning process was actually kind of in place before my company EXP bought it. So my architectural practice took it through planning. We got planning permission originally for a 1-bed and a 2-bed. It is in conservation area, but ultimately, like I say, it was prime for development. We needed to punch a few light wells out the front and to the side to get light deeper into the space. And to do that, we had to do a daylight sunlight report to show that the amount of daylight in the units was adequate. But ultimately, it sailed through planning. It sailed through for a 1-bed and a 2-bed. So the smaller 2-bed on the left-hand side of that plan was actually a big bedroom originally. And I did that mainly to kind of, secure a planning application to then resubmit a non-material amendment to change that 1-bed to a 2-bed. I could have just gone straight in for the 2-beds, but I do think I might have had a bit of pushback on the size of it. So I just wanted to secure the approval and then go back in for more. And that's something, again, you should be pushing your architects, your designers to do, to try and eke out more space than just continue to optimize the scheme and maximize what you can get out of it. Very efficient floor plans, small amount of communal space or corridor space, and that's why these 2-bed flats, which are a lot smaller than national space standards, that's why they still feel really big when you get inside them. Some things worth noting, we had to do some external works. We actually spent close to £200 per square foot converting these spaces, and that's mainly because of the civil engineering works and the groundworks that needed to go into it. So we had to dig out the front light wells. We had to lower the floor slab by 300 mil to get enough head height, because by the time we had insulation, tanking, and the screed on top of the new floor, we would have been down to the sort of 2.1 meter head height, which for a basement you just don't want. You're going to struggle to sell something that just doesn't feel light and airy. So that was a decision we made pretty early on. You can see the diggers in that image, which is one of the issues we came across. The machine on the right hand side started to try and break up the concrete slab, really struggled. We lost about a week in program, found a company that could bring in this specialist piece of equipment, which is the yellow digger, and it did what the right hand side digger couldn't do in about sort of a quarter of the time. So we gained back the time that we lost trying to figure out what to do. And it was a great piece of kit to bring on board. Now, we built these units in 5 months. During COVID, we had a great builder working with us on this. We had a good set of drawings to kind of help him just crack on. I really didn't have to oversee the build too much. We'd negotiated a extra car parking space with one of the neighbours, so we had to draw up a legal agreement to transfer part of the car parking land to us to enable us to have an extra car parking space, because the original scheme only had one parking space between the two flats. So we wanted to make sure that we added that extra kind of £10,000 for one of the flats to give it that car parking space allocated. But it just took forever with the neighbour. So yeah, if you've got any legal agreements like this with neighbours, make sure you start them ASAP, because they can drag on, and it has significantly costed us a lot of money. Other ways to add value, making sure that the specification of the interiors is right for the area. A lot of people overspec things, so we did a lot of market analysis, spoke to a lot of agents to understand what is right for that area. We did make some savings on the ground slab and decided to actually put that saving into an underfloor heating for the open plan kitchen areas, and it is a massive selling point for people buying flats when you've got a big open plan kitchen living area. So we decided to spend the extra money on that. We made sure we were signed up to the Help to Buy scheme, which improved our exit strategy. One of the 2 flats that's been bought is from a first-time buyer using the Help to Buy scheme. Had we not had that, he wouldn't have been able to afford the deposit. So it's well worth doing. Interior design and staging. We actually staged one of the bigger 2-bedroom flat. We bought all of the furnishing for about £4,000 and ultimately agreed for the furnishings to stay in the flat with the new buyer. He was a first-time buyer. We offered that to him and sold it for £5,000. So we've even made profit on the furnishing. It helped it sell quicker, and we made a little bit of profit on that. It's an additional negotiating tip. If you can't negotiate the price anymore, okay, well, what else can you throw in? What else can you do to incentivize the buyers? And the reason I put that photo in there is because every single developer out there should be making sure that the shower valve in your showers is outside the line of the shower head. Nobody wants to get a wet arm when they turn on their shower, and I hate seeing it.
Hi, I hope you're enjoying the free content. My name is Matt Siddell. I started Qandor in 2017. In 2020, we launched a property academy called Tropolis. If you want to know how you can come and join our fantastic network and work with the wonderful people that we help and support, then click the link below and book your call with me today.
A few sort of progress photos. You can see the light wells that we were forming, both to the side and to the front. These light wells going in. You'll see in the bottom left-hand photo that the windows have been punched through these walls at the front. The tanking system is going in, which is a waterproofing system. So it's a cavity drainage tanking system. We've got the insulation going in and the underfloor heating. So you can see on this image here on the wall, you've got a rubber kind of egg crate membrane that gets fixed to the wall. That is a waterproofing membrane. So it's called tanking. The yellow channels built into this floor are the drainage channels that take any potential basement water or ingress away from the site. So this site, luckily, we actually it's gravity fed, whereas a lot of basements, if they are fully submerged, you'll need a sump pump system where if there is any water ingress, it tracks its way down the egg crate membrane. What we don't have in this image, which is underneath this insulation, is a black membrane that is a similar egg crate, sort of 20 mil thick sheet all the way across the floor. So any water that tracks in the walls tracks down behind the waterproofing membrane, underneath the waterproofing membrane on the floor, finds its way to the yellow drainage channels and finds its way out to the drainage, outside, or a pumping system that then pumps the water out to the mains drain. So any basement designs, any basements that you do will need to have some form of tanking or waterproofing system. This is probably the most common. It's called a Type C drainage system. And yeah, for conversions like this will be the most common way of tanking a basement. Moving on, you can see the windows being punched out, the stud walls, lightweight steel track going up, and then a couple of sort of finer finishes and fittings. So you can see the shower valves built into the walls, some nice geometric tiles, laminate flooring, and we've actually installed a electric combi boiler in this. Electric boilers will become more and more common over the next couple of years. Gas boilers are being phased out by 2025. So yeah, we decided to take the plunge now and install an electric boiler. It's got an inbuilt domestic hot water vessel, so everything is contained within this, and this is more than capable of doing 2-bedroom flats of this size with an ensuite. which we've got in our big 2-bedroom flat, which is this one. So you can see the finished article. It looks nice and bright and airy. You can see the distance above. This door is about 300-400 millimeters. We ended up with, had we not lowered the floor, this would have felt so dark and dingy, whereas now it feels nice and bright and light. You can see that we've staged the property for the photos, and we kept this staged for the sales process. It just helps to make people feel like this could be their home. It really kind of helps people visualize what it would be like to live here. A couple more photos. We've got underfloor heating in the bathrooms as well, so that's electronic mats. Whereas in the open plan kitchen living space, it's a wet system. So here's what most people want to know. The finances. We bought the basement lease for £90,000. Our build cost budgeted in at about 215 grand. We ended up spending about 4 grand more than that. But we made a big saving on both the professional fees and the utilities cost based on where we had estimated. One of those reasons is that we actually didn't have to install the gas connection because we went all electric. Legal fees were slightly more than what we had anticipated, but ultimately when you take the small overspend on the build costs, the big saving on the professional fees and utilities, we actually saved just under 10 grand, which is about 4% saving based on what was budgeted. So really happy with that. We didn't quite hit the GDV target that we expected. So 495 is what we had budgeted. And we ended up selling both units for £489,000, but less than 1% lower than expected. I will take that. So before the finance and the sales costs, we were looking at a really, really healthy sort of profit on GDV of close to sort of 30%. And taking the finance and sales costs into consideration, it drops us down, quite considerably. One of the main reasons for that, that you might be questioning, the crowdfunding process wasn't the cheapest route that we could have gone down. We know we could have got finance cheaper elsewhere, but for us, it was somewhat a sales and marketing process as well. We've got a really good base of potential future investors that are now wanting to work with us. All in all, it was a successful process. It's just a shame that the sales process took 7 months when we had them built and offers accepted within 6-7 months. But these things happen. So we're going to be walking away with about £92,000 of net profit before tax. And I've highlighted up here, realistically, our in costs on this were less than £15,000, and ultimately we're making 92 grand off of 15 grand, which is a 600% ROI, which for a very, very small amount of money in, that's a great win for our business. I mentioned about leaning on your consultants, so questioning everything. So question your consultants, your architects, your engineers. Really make sure that they've got your best interests at heart. The reason I've said customer journey is important is because we actually probably missed out on 3 weeks of good sales opportunities because we had agreed with the freeholder to do some work on the exterior of the building. So we had scaffolding up when our units were finished, which was bad timing. You want to make sure that you're making that whole route from main road all the way through to the flats as appealing as possible for potential customers. It is so important. We had utilities too late in our build path. They're notoriously difficult to deal with, so the sooner you can get onto the backs of the utilities to make their new connections, the better. I mentioned that our builder kind of cracked on and really did deliver this in 5 months without too much input. The main reason that the drawing package that he had and the information that he was given had very, very little ambiguity. So he was able really to just plow on and do what he's there to do. Just one thing to note, making sure that you make a note of the planning conditions and that you discharge them in the appropriate time. So if you've got an architect on board, that's something that they should be doing for you, but you as the developer should have a keen eye on when those are due to be discharged, so that you're not holding up works and you can actually occupy your flats, because some planning conditions will stipulate that you can't actually occupy the spaces until they've been discharged. Reviewing the market, that's ever important, as the building process continues. We were having constant communication with the agent. We decided to make the change up to underfloor heating. They thought it was a good idea and would would be viewed quite positively by potential buyers. So yeah, just keeping a really close eye, speaking to your agents as early as possible and getting their input in terms of what's going on in the market. Yeah, starting legal negotiations, ours took way longer than we expected. I had the agreement really quickly with the neighbour, but the solicitors and that whole kind of legal process just took forever. And I think it's a bit of a sign of the times with COVID. Every solicitor I speak to seems to be really busy, but ultimately that is really hurting us in finance. So speed really is imperative, and we were so chuffed to get things done within 5 months and onto the market. It's just been incredibly disappointing that it's taken 7 months to actually get them over the line. So a little bit about us. Our team has expanded exponentially over the past couple of months. Those are our details. Happy to chat to anyone that is just starting development or wants to understand what's possible on projects. We would love to speak to people about opportunities of joint ventures. If you want to find out some of the other things that we've been up to, this was an article I wrote in the Qandor magazine for one of my architectural clients. There's plenty of other resource that Qandor and Tropolis have for you, sort of budding developers, and it's all really useful stuff.
So if you enjoyed this video, why not check out some of our other videos? I recently interviewed lots of fantastic people. There's loads of good content in there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video.